When a relationship breaks down, the first fear is rarely about money. It's about child. Will I see them? Can they stop me? What are my rights? Let me say this clearly at the outset. In England and Wales, child custody is not about winning, it's about welfare. Hi, I'm Dr. Chris Aniche, a children's panel specialist and a family law accredited solicitor. In this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step your right in a child custody dispute. Clear and structured and grounded in law, no myths from social media. Because once you understand legal position, you move from panic to strategy. First, we need to correct the language. The term custody is no longer used in courtroom. The legal framework comes from the Children's Act 1989, and today we talk about child arrangement orders. This determines where a child lives and who they spend time with. That shift in language matters because the court does not allocate ownership. It regulates arrangement. Now let's begin with step one. Step one, understand your parental responsibility. Your right largely flows from whether you have parental responsibility. If you are the mother, automatically you have. If you are the father and married to the mother at the time of the birth, you automatically have it. If unmarried, that is, you're not married, you usually acquire it by being named in the child's birth certificate after 1st of December 2003. Parental responsibility means you have a legal right to participate in major decisions concerning your child. For example, education, medical treatment, religious upbringing, name change. It does not mean you control day-to-day living arrangement. It means your voice matters in significant decisions. For example, if your child needs non-emergency surgery, a parent with parental responsibility must be consulted. If you do not have parental responsibility, you can apply to court to obtain it. That is your first strategic checkpoint. Step two, under the cost priority, many parents enter into dispute thinking in terms of fairness between adults. No, the court does not. Under Section 1 of the Children's Act 1989, the child's welfare is the paramount consideration, not fairness between parents. Always about the welfare, and the court uses what is known as the welfare checklist. It considers what? The first, the child's wishes and feelings. Depending on the child's age and maturity, their emotional and physical need, their likely effect of a change in their circumstances, and any risk of harm, each parent's capability to meet the needs. This means your rights are always assessed through the lenses of your child's welfare, not your entitlement, not your frustration, just welfare. Step three, your right to apply to court. If agreement cannot be reached between both parents, you have the right to apply for a child arrangement order. Before doing so, you are usually required to attend a MIAM, that's a mediation, information, and assessment meeting. The aim is to resolve dispute without litigation. But if mediation is unsuitable or unsuccessful, you can then proceed to court. For example, if one parent suddenly stops contact without safeguarding concerns, the other parents can apply for spend time with order. The court can then set a structured arrangement. Step 4, understanding lives with and spend time with. These are the two core components of the child arrangement order. Live with does not create superiority. It reflects where the child primarily resides. Spend time with sets out contact arrangements. For example, a child may live with one parent during the school week and spend alternative weekend and half of the school holiday with the other parents. In some cases, share care arrangements are made where time is divided more equally. But share care is not presumed. It depends on practicality, stability, schooling, and parental cooperation. Step 5, your right to be heard. Both parents have right to present evidence. Statements are filed. Sometimes Kafka becomes involved in preparing safeguarding reports. In some complex cases, fact-finding hearing to determine allegations such as domestic abuse. This is critical. If allegations are made, the court must determine whether they are proven before determining long-term arrangements. The court does not simply assume guilt. Evidence matters, and of course, there are proportionality. So proportionality matters. Step 6, relocations are major decision. If one parent wishes to relocate, particularly abroad, they cannot lawfully remove the child permanently without consent of all with parental responsibility or a court order. For example, if a parent wishes to move from London to Australia and the other parent objects, a relocation application must be made. The court examines 1, motivation, the impact on the child's relationship with the other parent, practical proposal for maintaining contact. The analysis is welfare driven, not parents driven. Step 7, enforcement right. If an order exists and one parent breaches it without reasonable excuse, like I said, without reasonable excuse, the other parents can apply for enforcement. The court can 1, vary the order, impose unpaid work requirements, and in extreme cases, transfer residence to the other parents. But enforcement is never automatic punishment. The court first asks, why was the order breached? Is the child resisting contact? Are there safeguarding issues? Context always matters. Now let's address the emotional reality. Parents often ask, do father have equal rights? The law does not distinguish based on gender. It distinguishes based on welfare and involvement. A committed child-focused father has the same legal standing as a mother. What matters is the capacity to meet the needs. Another question, will the court listen to my child? Yes, but in age-appropriate way. Children do not decide. Their views informs welfare assessment. So let me bring this all together strategically. Your rights in child custody dispute are structured around 5 pillars: parental responsibility, right to apply, right to be heard, right to participate in major decisions, and right to seek enforcement. But every one of those rights operates within the welfare framework. This is where many cases are either won or lost, not on technical entitlement, but on demonstrated child focused conduct. If you communicate respectfully, encourage the child's relationship with the other parents, avoid weaponizing conflict, you demonstrate stability, you strengthen your legal position. Because the court looks for the parents most likely to promote the child's welfare long term. And here's the deeper truth: child custody battles are rarely won in court alone. They are shaped by behavior long before the hearing. Your message, your flexibility, your engagement, judges observe the pattern. Consistency builds credibility, and conflict erodes it. So when you ask, what are my rights? The accurate answer is this: you have the right to be involved. You have the right to apply for structured arrangements, the right to participate in major decisions, the right to challenge unfair restriction, and the right to have your case decided according to the law, not bias. But those rights are always balanced against one overriding principle: your child's welfare comes first. I am Dr. Chris Aniche, and if you've valued a clear structured guidance on family law in England and Wales, subscribe to this channel, because informed parents make stronger decisions, and in child custody matter, strategic understanding is your greatest advantage.